Alrighty, guys, welcome to Family Food Program. This week we are doing leftovers, and we thank Scotiabank and Food Share for supporting us. As usual, we're going to go through our rules of engagement, so please type your name in the chat. Let us know who's with us today. We encourage you to write your first name as your username, so when we're talking to you, we know who we're talking to. Yes or no, or a thumbs up if you can hear us. Please mute your microphone when we're talking. No drawing on the screen. And if you have any questions, you can put your hand up or write them in the chat. And we encourage you to just share your videos with us as we are talking. For health and safety, please have an adult with you in the kitchen if you are using a knife or a stove, or you're cooking with us today, and always wash your hands. Last week we did refrigerator rescue, just learning to use some of the stuff we have in our fridge before they go bad. And this week we're doing leftovers, so using what we've already cooked and adapting them to new things. And I'm going to get on to Chef Lee.
Okay, hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about leftovers and what we can do with leftovers. I was just trying to think about what some of my favorite leftovers are in my fridge, and maybe it's something you've never really. Right here, I'm going to open it up. Whole tomatoes right here. I'm going to pour it right into this pot. One whole 28-ounce tin of tomatoes right there, right into the pot. I'm gonna get this going first. While this is cooking, I'll show you how to make the polenta.
Okay, guys, I will go over in the chat kind of what we are doing for the tomato sauce. So what she's doing is she has a can of tomatoes, so like a really big can.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can we use canned corn?
For this, so it won't be actual corn, it'll be cornmeal.
So basically, yeah, cornmeal is not made from the corn that we eat off the cob. It's a different variety of corn. There's a couple of different kinds of cornmeal. Sometimes you might see something called instant cornmeal. So that is that's basically cornmeal that's already been cooked. The corn's already been cooked, and then it's been dried again and ground up. The cornmeal, I didn't buy instant cornmeal today. I have just your regular cornmeal, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So I have some tomatoes on the stove. I'm just quickly going to put in a couple of onions. I'm not even going to saute them in the pan. I've got whole tomatoes. I've got raw onion just going right in there. And I know that's not normally how you might make tomato sauce, but this creates a really nice light tomato sauce. So that's all it is. We've got onions. We've got tomatoes. I'm probably going to put in a little salt and pepper. And I'm going to put it on my other burner there. And I'm going to let this cook while I make the polenta. And the reason why I'm making this tomato sauce is this is a very a northern Italian a traditional dish, which I'm going to be making. So there we go. So I've got onions and tomatoes right here. I'm going to put it over there. I could put some dried oregano or some basil in there, but I'm just leaving. I'm not putting anything else in there, just tomatoes and onions. And you'll see how tasty just those two things are with a little bit of butter at the end. Okay. So I've got my pot of chicken stock here. You can use water. You can use vegetable stock. You can use some milk as well. All of these liquids make a really, really nice polenta. So I'm going to show you how to make a really quick polenta. There's going to be some people who say you can't make a quick polenta, but I say, no, you're wrong. Traditionally, what would happen is once you get your cornmeal into the liquid, you might want to cook it for an hour or 2 hours or 2.5 hours. Now, that does make a nice polenta, I agree. It's creamy and it's very smooth, but you don't have to. You don't need to do that. I kind of like it with a bit of texture. So personally, I cook it really quickly for most of the time, especially like on a weeknight. You come home or you're at school and you want something quick and you're hungry. Yeah, so basically, I'm going to show you the quick version. Okay, so I've got my pot on the stove here. So I've measured out my water already. So I've got, I kind of doubled my own recipe because I'm going to give some to somebody. So I've got 8 cups here, but I think the recipe I gave you is 4 cups. So I've got my liquid on, and now I've got a couple of different kinds of cornmeal here. This is a brand called Ferma. It's just you find it in every single grocery store, I think. It's kind of like a medium grind of cornmeal. There's different coarsenesses of cornmeal. It starts off with like a corn flour, which is basically flour, and it's great, especially for gluten-free cooking, baking especially. And then you've got your fine ground cornmeal, and then you've got, this is the medium. Now I would say fine and medium works just fine for cornmeal, but then you get this kind, which is coarse. So it's going to be, the pieces are bigger than this cornmeal. This makes a really good polenta as well. So you could use really, really fine, medium, or coarse. The coarse one I would probably cook for longer. So I'm going to use the medium one right now. So I'm going to open this up. And I have to bring my liquid to a boil. So make sure it comes to a rolling boil where you see all the bubbles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my handy dandy measuring thing here. So I'm going to put probably just over 2 cups. So basically 4 parts liquid to 1 part of cornmeal makes a soft polenta. And you'll see what that looks like. So I've got my whisk here. I'm just going to wait for this to come up to a real boil here. Now, what you need to do, you can have somebody help you. So traditionally, I've actually witnessed this before. I've actually been to a big polenta celebration, to be honest. They do this in my mother's hometown in Italy. So one year I got to stir the big giant polenta pot with the giant paddle. It was hilarious. But it's the job that the men do. I don't know why. I should look that up. But traditionally, the men like to make the polenta. So we'll see. Anyway, okay. So now my liquid here is really, really boiling away. So what you want to do is you got one hand with your whisk, you got the other hand with your cornmeal. You have to kind of do this at the same time. So you need to be really careful about your pot on the stove. Be really careful, or have somebody help you. And it could be helpful if you want to use an oven mitt. If somebody's helping you, they can hold the pot so that it doesn't move around on the stove top. But the thing is, you don't want this to lump up. You don't want it to get lumpy. And I'm going to show you how to do that so it doesn't get lumpy. I mean, and you might have heard of, all heard of grits. You might have heard the term grits, like shrimps and grits. Well, grits is cornmeal, but it's specifically a very coarse cornmeal, often stone ground. So it would definitely be coarse, but it's only made from the corn that's grown in the United States, the dent corn. The flint is specifically in Italy, so in Europe. So that's probably the big difference between grits and polenta is where the dried corn comes from, and how big the pieces are. Okay. All right. So my tomatoes are simmering here, which is awesome. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start whisking my liquid. If you can see that. And I'm going to start pouring in the polenta. And you can see it, I'm letting it fall like rain because and you can see that I'm continuously whisking into the hot liquid. So I don't want to take too long to do this, but I want to make sure that it doesn't lump up as I'm pouring it in. As long as you're whisking all over throughout the whole pot, you're not going to have any lumps. But you have to be careful because it's boiling water, it's very hot, so you should be super careful there. Okay, so that's 1 cup. I need one more because I doubled my recipe. So I'm going to add a little bit more there. Okay. There we go. I'm going to continue to do this. We're going to keep whisking for a few minutes until the cornmeal starts to absorb the stock. And once that happens, what I need to do now though is I don't want it to be bubbling away because the bubbles will splash out of the pot. So right away I want to turn this to low. I'm going to turn this to low. Okay. I'm going to turn this to low, and I'm going to put it on the stove and let it cook. I don't have to whisk it as much anymore. As I said, you have to be super careful because you don't want it to splash. You don't want the bubbles to splash out of the pot and onto your skin because it'll burn. Okay, so make sure that's low. Whoop. Okay. Ah. All right. And that's almost ready. So I'm going to move back over here just because it's not doing what it's supposed to over there. Okay.
Hey, Chef V, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now this is almost ready already. I know it didn't take very long, but it doesn't take very long. So basically, I'm going to pour the cornmeal out onto a wooden board, which is right here. I don't know if I think you can see this. I've got a wooden board. Oh, I'm going to use this wooden board. Hold on. This one's too big. So basically, I'm not going to cook this polenta any further. What I could do, I could be mixing some cheese into here. I could mix some fresh herbs, which I am going to do. I've got some parsley right here. I'm going to chop a little bit of parsley and put it right into my polenta. What I did forget to tell you is that before you put the cornmeal in this in the boiling liquid, you're going to want to taste the liquid to make sure it has enough salt and pepper. But if you're cooking along with me, don't worry. Don't worry if you didn't do that because you can do it afterwards. Because we're cooking it for such a short period of time. Am I turned off again?
No, you're all good, Chef.
Okay, so basically, this is ready. So I'm going to turn this off, and I've got 2 different things going on here. So I've got a little container here, and I'm going to put half of the polenta in here, and I'm going to put the other half onto this board, and I'll tell you why. Basically, okay, so I'm going to get a spoon, which is here somewhere. Okay. Now I'm going to pour some polenta right into here, and you can see that the consistency is quite soft, but not too soft. You can see how it kind of it's not super soft, but it's holding its shape, but it's quite you know, it's made its way to the edges of the container. So what I'm going to do right here, I'm not going to put any sauce on this one. I'm going to leave this here for a second. I'll finish that off in a minute. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to pour out my polenta onto this wooden board. This is traditionally how you would eat it. You would put it on a wooden board, just like that. Or you might have, maybe your family home has a big, long wooden table. What you would do, what my grandmother would do is she would put the polenta on a board, a giant board. She would kind of smooth it out a little bit. Just like that. Smooth it out a little bit. Whoops. You smooth it out like that, and then you would take your tomato sauce right here. You would kind of mash it up a little bit. Now, basically, it's just onions and tomatoes. I'm going to put in a little bit, I'm going to stir in a little bit of butter into this. Put this down here. I have a little bit of butter right here. We'll put some butter into this tomato sauce. Just a few pieces of butter. And you're gonna kind of mash the tomatoes. Now, if you don't like chunky onions, I would puree it with a hand blender. But you might want to cook the onions till they're fairly soft, till they're soft. I might have let this cook a little bit longer, but it's fine. So basically, I've got my sauces all ready. I'm just gonna spoon the tomatoes right on top of here, just like that. And I'm going to top it with some cheese. And I have a little bit of cheese. If you like cheese, it tastes really, really great with some Parmesan cheese or Pecorino Romano. So I've got a piece of cheese here. And I'm just going to grate some cheese right on top of there. Whoops. And if my mother was lucky, they would have a little tiny piece of hard sausage that they would put on each little piece of polenta for each of the children in her family. So what you would do at this point is you'd let it set for a few minutes, and then you would cut it. You would cut it, and then you down the center, and you would cut it into pieces, and then you'd let it sit. You'd let it sit, and then you would slice. Once it cooled down a little bit, you could just push it right over to your plate. So basically, that is a very quick dinner. It only took me 15 minutes to make that, and it's quite versatile. So there's the polenta. But I saved a little bit of polenta right here in a container. So what I'm going to do here is I have roasted some mushrooms. I have roasted mushrooms here, and I'm going to cover this polenta with the roasted mushrooms. We have roasted mushrooms here. Can you hear me, Brittany?
Yes.
Oh.
Nathaniel has a question. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Okay.
While you do that, yeah.
Can you use any kind of butter?
What was the question?
You said, can you use any kind of butter?
You can use any kind of butter. You mean for the tomatoes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, any kind of butter is fine, or olive oil. And as a matter of fact, before I poured out the polenta, You can add a little bit of butter or olive oil if you like into the polenta, but it's not necessary. Most often, it's eaten very plain, made with just water mostly. So anyway, I have sauce, and I have a polenta with mushrooms, and I have a little bit of some gorgonzola cheese, only because I just have a little bit of it. Mushrooms and cheese, the gorgonzola go really well together. And I'm going to put just a little bit of that on top, and maybe just a little more pecorino cheese, which is right here. Right here. Okay. And let's move this one out of the way a little bit. So I have my mushrooms here. See if I can. Now, I also have a little bit of fresh tarragon. I'm just going to put a little bit of fresh tarragon on top of this mushroom dish because it goes really well with the mushrooms and the polenta. So, okay. I was going to make a salad, but I think I don't have time for that exactly. So I hope you try this at home. It's a delicious, it makes a delicious dinner, and it makes a delicious leftover dinner. It's very versatile. I have another piece right here that I'm going to show you. Okay. No, I brought it here. No, sorry, it's right here. So usually when I make polenta, I always have leftovers because I like leftover polenta. So with the leftover polenta that I had, that I didn't use for these dishes, I would maybe just put it into a container that's lined with some wrap or some whatever, some wax paper, not wax, but maybe it's parchment paper or plastic. And then you can store it in the fridge, and then you can cut it. You can cut this into pieces. Maybe just like a couple of pieces. Just like that. And when it cools down, it becomes solidified. It's hard. It's not hard. You can hold it. And what I would pan on the stove right here. Put this down. I have a little non-stick fry pan right here. So I have this is my leftover polenta that's been in the fridge. So it's, as I said, it's solid. So what you can do is you can pan fry this for another dinner on another night. So you can make it ahead. You can make it ahead of time. Yeah, you can make it ahead of time, and you can have it ready in your fridge for any kind of dinner or lunch or breakfast. Often it's eaten for breakfast. Actually, it's eaten it's eaten soft with milk and sugar or honey or dates. It's a traditional sort of breakfast. I know for sure in Italy. Okay, so I got this on high heat here. And I'm just going to put that, I'm just going to start sauteing that piece of cold polenta. So I hope you all try this at home. And is anybody cooking along with me right now?
Not today. But they said they've tried it before. They like it with goat cheese or leftovers with pulled pork or barbecue chicken on top.
So this is not quite ready, but it's going to get kind of crispy on one side if I let it cook long enough. So there's all kinds of other things you can make with polenta, leftover polenta. You can, when you see it, if you put some in the fridge like this for the next day, you can make a stir. You can make a stir fry with vegetables. You just cut it up into small pieces, and you would fry it like this, but with other vegetables as well. You can turn this into a pasta dish by adding an egg and some flour. Even though it's cold, you kind of mash it all together, and you can make something called a gnocchi, which is a traditional Italian dish. Bye.
You're still with us, Jeffy. Nathaniel has another question. Nathaniel, do you want to ask your question?
No, that was before.
What's your question?
It
That
was
was
the
from
one he had
before.
asked earlier that Britt asked about the butter.
I'm sorry, pardon?
It's the one that Britt had asked you about the butter, so you already answered it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I have time to do the salad part of this class.
Sorry, I can't cook today. I don't have any of the ingredients.
Have any ingredients? Maybe you'll take some time to make it.
Yeah, maybe if I get some ingredients, I can do it.
Have you ever made polenta? Have you ever made this kind of cornmeal before?
Actually, I've never had cornmeal before.
Oh, then you should definitely try this.
Really? Mm.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Wow, that polenta looks good. It looks almost like pizza.
I was thinking the same thing, actually.
And there's, the class was about leftovers, and I know polenta is not something you normally would find in your fridge, but but once you start making polenta, you'll realize that you can. It stays really. It keeps really well in the fridge for quite a long time, and it reheats beautifully in the oven. So you could make like a whole tray for the week, or you can. I mean, I know that it can be put in the freezer as well if you've got leftovers, and you can take it out and use it for something else. Yeah, I just really wanted to. I guess we really should have talked more about what we should be thinking about when we're making meals and looking in our fridge. We should just be trying to use up everything that we can. So if we're using vegetables like collard greens, which I was going to make a salad with it, but what I've done so far is I've taken the stems. I've taken the stems away from the leaf, the collard green leaf. I'm going to, because I could chop these up and I could saute them to go along with my pan fried polenta that I could just cook it in a little bit of olive oil and garlic, and then make a salad. I'll be making a salad by cutting this up really finely and mixing it with olive oil and vinegar and some red grapes. So and maybe I'll do some pickling too, because I have quite a few of these. I can make some pickles out of the stems. If I just trim off all the green part of the collard stems, we can make pickles, pickled collard stems.
Alrighty, Chef. We have one last question for you, and then I will
Right.
be giving everyone just a little quick poll to do. The question was, are grits the same but cooked longer with milk or butter or cream?
Grits?
Yes.
Yeah, grits is definitely cornmeal. As I said, it's a type of cornmeal that's grown in the United States called dent. That's the variety of what grits is made out of, I believe. And it's coarser. It's quite coarse. It's a coarse. It's coarse. It's quite coarse. I have some here that can be used to make grits, but often it's a bit pieces are quite big. And you might add milk or cream and cook it for a long time, like you would do polenta. But often they have some really good quality stone ground grit variety, like brands that make a really delicious dish, a grit dish.
You're awesome. Thank you, Chef. So guys, we just have a quick little end of class poll for you guys to just fill up really quickly. If you could do that for us, that would be amazing. And also in the chat, if you guys would like to try Chef's salad recipe, that's in the chat as well. And if you're ever looking for the recipes later on after we're done cooking, you could always check the emails we sent out weekly. So we generally will have the recipe for the week that we make each week. Give us a thumbs up once you fill out that poll. Oh, we'd also love to see photos of if you make anything at home. We'd love to see it. And Coach Sonia has put her email in the chat for you guys. If you want, so if you make anything, we'd love if you would send her the photos. Right. Thumbs up if you filled out the poll. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna send it on over to the coaches to wrap it up for us.
All right. Does anyone want to, well, first of all, thank you, Chef V. We got through those technical difficulties, so good job.
Yeah,
the food looked,
really sorry. I don't know.
it happens. It's out of our control, right? Technology. It's one of those things that you're at the mercy of. That's all right. That food looks really good, actually. Like Aaron said, it kind of looks like a pizza, but it's not a pizza at the same time.
Yeah, you could turn it into a pizza in a second. You could put it in a round pan and just chop it with pizza ingredients.
Yeah.
And just bake, put it in it, and reheat it. It's beautiful.
Oh, wicked. That's like,
Yeah.
that's almost like a pan pizza then, no, at that point? Like the ones they have at Domino's?
Oh, Domino's.
I don't know, just a thought. Anyway. But thanks for coming, guys. I believe this was the last one for this, or is there one more, Sonia?
So we have another class coming up in 2 weeks on December 8th. And then we will see if we can do something fun over the winter break. So stay tuned to the emails, but definitely on December 8th, there'll be a class.
Perfect, okay.
I missed the whole thing. I missed out. Oh no.
So speaking of that, does anyone want to lead us in the cheer to wrap us up? Eduardo, Aaron. All right, count us in.
1, 2, 3.
MOSC,
4, 5, 6.
family,
7,
7, 8, 9.
have a great time.
Have a great time.